product use or challenge conventions? Well, I use some conventions for the apocalypse movie stereotype in only having a few characters. It makes sense for apocalypse. There's only going to be a few people left, but I prided myself on working with a rather small cast. I only had 2 actors with me. My friends, Sophia and Claire, they were great help, and Sophia specifically played 2 different characters, and you could see it still worked out. You could still very much tell the different characters, and everybody was very distinguished. So I believe playing into that stereotype definitely worked for my film. But on the other hand, I challenge apocalypse stereotypes in my lack of names for the characters. None of the characters were named in or outside of the film. In my planning, I refer to all the characters as the kid or the survivor or the demon. Very vague general names, because this is mostly because I couldn't think of names for them, but it was also to break that stereotype and to reinforce how deep into the world that these characters were. This apocalypse clearly has been going on for so long that people don't remember their names. So that was how I challenged stereotypes in one way. Another was having my antagonist character be very human looking. Now, it's not totally unique to films to have the antagonist be human, of course, but for apocalypse movies, like when there's nobody left, you're gonna have people that are kinda unhinged, but my person, or rather demon, is just human. And I think it's human looking enough to be very unsettling to have such a human figure coming after you, but then different enough to distinguish that, they don't talk, they don't do anything but walk quickly at you. It's disturbing and it's frightening. So that was another way I challenged conventions and stereotypes. And how does it represent social groups? Well, I represented teens in my film, mostly teens in apocalypse movies, with confusion and panic. We don't get to see the teen point of view a lot. How does my product engage with audiences, and how would it be distributed as a media text? Well, I plan to have my video be put up on YouTube, not only to help with the copyright of the music. That's part of the deal, is to put the credits in the description of any video, but I also want to put it on YouTube because it's such a popularly used platform these days. If I were to distribute any of my films, it would probably be through YouTube, because we spend so much time on YouTube as our society is just always on social media, on YouTube, and that's the place people would go for short films and short videos. Maybe if I got a little more professional, I would distribute my text through more professional means or sites, but as of right now, as being a student in film, I stick to YouTube. It's easy to navigate, easy to use, and gets a lot of publicity. And going back to how I engage with audiences, YouTube is a big part of that. Through YouTube, it's not just people watching the film, it's also them liking or disliking or sharing or commenting about it. that's the engagement that I'd like to see with my film. I would absolutely be the kind of creator who responds to every comment and likes every comment and brings attention to anybody who would engage with my work. I think that's the best part of it, is engaging with the people about the work, and YouTube is the best way to do that. Through likes, dislikes, comments, shares, I could track all that data, see how my progress, how far I've come for other films to compare, really make progress. I could also share my film through other social media platforms, Instagram and TikTok for clips, and of course those are highly engaging as well, with the same things, likes, dislikes, comments, etc. And yeah, that's really the best way to engage with my audience, is to just talk with them and respond to them through comment sections and the such. How did I use production skills and develop my production skills through this whole project? Well, I think the biggest thing that developed during this project as far as production skills go for me would be my directing skills. Before I didn't do much directing in my previous projects. I was mostly behind the camera or doing the technical side of things, planning and such. But here for this project, with working by myself, I got to direct everything, and I found myself really flourishing in the position. I initially stumbled with it. I would be too nervous. I felt like I was being too harsh when I would tell my actors to act a certain way or stand in a different position, but I realized pretty quickly that it's just part of the filming process, and it's not being mean or harsh, it's just being a director, and it's just taking control of the movie. So that's the biggest thing that's developed for me. Before this film, I could barely tell someone where to stand, and afterwards I found myself very comfortable with telling my actors, that the last take was bad and needed to be redone, or that they needed to speak louder, or speak softer, or act a different way. It got much more comfortable throughout the project. Another thing that developed for me were my camera skills. As I said before, I worked a lot with the camera in previous projects, but I had I had help from an aunt of mine who really knew what she was doing. And now, just working with myself and getting very unique angles, it was an interesting experience, to say the least. I used a camera stand a lot. Even though I was still behind the camera, I would have a small stand under the GoPro on the ground, and you could really use it to move the camera in different directions. I used it for the Dutch angles that I did, shots of the sign and the rock throwing, things like that. The scene behind Claire as they're walking and they hear the stick snapping in the background. I learned how to both balance the camera by putting it on the ground and snapping the stick with my foot just behind the camera. How did I integrate technologies in my project? Well, talking about software specifically, I used editing software, Film4th, to edit my entire project. This was very helpful, especially for someone who is a beginner at editing. The editing software was very easy to navigate, it was easy to use, easy to understand. There was no watermark. That was probably the best part. It was totally free to download and use. That was the best software that I used in this project. As far as hardware goes, like I mentioned in the other question, the GoPro that I used is actually Claire's GoPro that I was borrowing for the project. The GoPro definitely came in handy during the whole thing though. Again, easy to use, but also the stand that it came with helped with a lot of harder shots. Definitely decreased the shakiness of the film. And it also really helped with getting different angles, the Dutch angles and such. Very, very difficult to do and keep steady just with hands, but with the stand it was really easy. And moving on to online things, again, as I mentioned previously, YouTube. I planned to upload my project to YouTube. I got my music through YouTube and looking for good copyright-free songs that I could very easily download. Looking through YouTube, finding those songs was pretty easy. Not quick, but easy. You know, I could find a channel that would upload hundreds of copyright-free songs, some with certain criteria. The song that I found that I thought was perfect for my film, fortunately, it had easy to fill criteria, and just using YouTube as an online platform, it makes it easy to navigate, easy to track progress. I could always change the status of my video from public to unlisted to private, and I definitely like that feature about the website, because I would have to make it public so I could have certain people review my project, but then I would have to keep it as unlisted so I could send it to others.